Hey everybody, Brian Von Vier here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. Today we're going to be talking about what's a joke that you put in your game that took forever for the players to catch on to. Recently heard this story from a new guy at work and had to share it. So the DM added some friendly NPCs to lead the party around a new area. Said NPCs are a trio of traveling bards named Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, and Ti, Do. Apparently his group are all musically inclined, so he figured it would be a quick one and done where they would groan and go, "Oh, really?" Then laugh a little bit and move on. That didn't happen though. He thinks this is because of the secondary joke, which is having a few very fantasy-sounding names and then one that really isn't. He said there is a lot of laughing about T-Do specifically. It was over a month later when someone saw all the names written out close to each other that it finally dropped. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The amount of times I had to do that in choir class. When the sorcerer used detect magic to investigate my wizard, the DM asked me to describe what on him would glow, so I went through my list of magical items, the regular fanfare, then took a look at my notes and said, "Oh. His head also subtly flares up with a faint transmutation aura." Well, needless to say, the sorcerer is suspicious and inquires a bit about it, but can't figure anything out, so he lets it go. Almost 1.5 years later, we are level 16, messing up with the gods. All common and uncommon enchantments get unmade. I proceed to describe that my wizard becomes bald in front of their eyes. Everyone at the table finds it strange, but don't say anything at first. Half a minute later, the sorcerer goes, "Wait! The transmutation aura on his head was hair growth?" Rogaine ain't got nothing on that. Only he and I remembered that detail to laugh about it, but since then, I always add some details that I think are just for my own enjoyment in my characters. You never know. I have 2 stories. Neither of them are exactly what you're looking for, but hey, it's Reddit. When did a commenter ever actually give OP what they want? Well, you better, son. One was from a player. It was his first campaign, and he's not exactly a fantasy guy, so when he told me that his Dragonborn's paladin's name was Nitsword the Devoted, I just tried to pretend it wasn't a super dumb name and be supportive. Cut to 4 months later, we are playing through Waterdeep, Dragon Heist, and had worked into his backstory that Jarlaxle Benray had killed his character's family. After a dramatic attempt at escape from Xanathar's lair, Nitsword fell to a disintegration beam. It was only then that he revealed to me that his name was simply Drow Stink backwards. I was enraged. The next was the same campaign, but it was something I did to my players. The book describes these 3 cute urchins who can help the players out. I leaned into this. I made them little musicians who would busk for the players. They were basically like adopted children to the party. One day, to trigger the main action, a massive fireball slams into the tavern owned and operated by the players. One of the children, a little girl named Nat, was caught in the blast. The poor kid was disfigured horribly, her face brutally burned in the attack. In her shame, she wore a veil over her mouth to cover her scars and crumpled jaw. Still, the child persisted in performing music and singing. After the party had finally defeated the big bad evil guy, a massive party was thrown at the tavern. Drinking and merriment abounding, the 3 urchins take the stage to perform an original song. The lights dim and the kids say together, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are..." Nat rips the veil off her face, revealing her scars. Smashed Mouth! I then hit play on All-Star by Smash Mouth and listened in sweet ecstasy as my players screamed and cursed my name. It was glorious. 2 years real time of playing every other weekend with breaks in summer and the holidays, and 5 years of in-game time for this one to drop. And it didn't take way too much time to drop. I wanted it to take this long. This was a high-level campaign where the goddess of nature had started going insane with her own power. "He whom is above the gods and the gods are above mortals," had created the gods with a single-use spell that, with their true name, could be used to command the god to reset themselves. In ages past, a mage learned the spell and the true name of the goddess of nature and used it for a day and a night with her in my bed. Oh, well, I hope he had a good time, since her overt reaction was to nuke the wizard's tower, which fractured the continent and triggered the cataclysm that mortal kind had to recover from. So, now freed from that restriction, she was getting drunk off her own power, and nature was growing out of control. The campaign was the typical, gather the ancient weapons of great power so they could be reforged into a deity-killing weapon. And it was going fine. Except they had to find this one artifact. This was a while ago, so I forgot the name of the artifact. But you know how a lot of artifacts are named using the convention of noun of verbing, like Spear of Destiny or Mace of Truth, etc.? Well, nope. This one had a nondescript name. Might as well have been called Bob's Artifact. So they're going after an artifact that no one knows where it is, what it looks like, what it does, nothing. But the name, Bob's Artifact. So, for those 2 years of gaming, the party was seeking books that could be cluing them in to what, in the name of Zeus's budgie smugglers, that they were looking for. Finally, the chain of references in books points them to a lich that may have in his library a book that predated the cataclysm. They find the lich's keep and engage in a big bad evil guy class boss fight. Dun dun dun! By the end, they were knackered. Spells exhausted, low HP, out of healing potions. The cleric was holding the party together with duct tape and dental floss. It was that close. For a party of 6 level 18s, I think they had maybe 30 HP between them. With the boss defeated, they had time to look for and find the book. The book describes the item in detail. A steel gray pearl about the size of a human's 2 hands clenched together that was last seen in the hands of the demon. I can't even read that with a straight face. Humpty Scrunch. Humpty Scrunch, damn it. At this point, the table is hearing a slow thumping, not in-game, but from one of the players. He is banging his head on the table and muttering to himself. When the others ask what's wrong, he looks up, glares at me and says, "It's on my fucking mantle." He then flipped me the double birds, and I laughed my ass off. You see, dear readers, the campaign thread the party finished 2 years prior was a battle against the demon Humpty Scrunch for another of the items they needed. One of the seemingly random bits of treasure was this pearl that radiated such weak magic. So weak that the failed arcane check indicated that it was likely residual from sitting in a pile of other really powerful items. So the player said that he took it into his keep and made it the centerpiece on his mantle over the fireplace. I had them chasing that sucker all over the world when it was sitting at home. 2 years to play the joke. That was when the table realized that youthful exuberance really is no match for old age and treachery. This is why they keep wanting to play with me as the GM. They can't wait to find out what else I can come up with. Look, between the name that you had going and the pearl trick, I'm seriously invested. If you're listening in, we want more. So this one wasn't the longest of cons or anything. Yeah, that was the last story over there. But it really did annoy my players when it got revealed. It's also the story of how I got a famous voice actor to participate in my shenanigans, though, so that's fun. I have a long history of name puns for my NPCs. A war-forged Sun Soul monk ship captain in a red leather duster and a gold metal plating who shoots his radiant sunbolts from his palms named Captain Ishmael Ernman, or I Ernman for short. A bald gnome with massive hands named Johnson D. Rockfist. Things of that sort. But I'd never gotten in on it with one of my players before until I ran a Mass Effect campaign. Oh, I love Mass Effect. Most of the players had normal names. Normal, cough cough. James Miller, Cassandra Bloom, Jacate Beltran. Don't ask. Dude literally plays the same character with the same name in everything he can get away with because he loves Star Trek Voyager. Also, I love The Expanse, so James Miller's my boy. And then there was Lieutenant M. Stryker. Everyone just assumed that the M stood for Max. Safe assumption, considering this player had literally played a character named Max Damage. Twice! Nope. During the first session, there was an introductory meeting with the crew, and each member of the party was introduced. The guy running the meeting got to Lieutenant Stryker's name on the list and stopped for a moment, looked at it again, and then called out Lieutenant Match Stryker? Everyone groaned at the player, who then informed the party that it was actually my suggestion and he thought it was hilarious, so he went with it. At the end of the first arc of the campaign, I had the players receive a message from another member of the System Alliance congratulating them on their successful mission. A slightly more well-known member named Commander Shepard, in a recorded video voiced by the actual voice actor Mark Meer, congratulating each of their characters by name. So yeah, I got Mark Meer to say Lieutenant Match Stryker on video. Unfortunately, he had to drop out before the second arc of the campaign could start, so nobody got to meet his son, Flint Stryker. The fact you actually went and got Mark Meer to record that, I'm proud of you. The players were walking through the woods when, out of the corner of their eyes, they rolled high enough on perception to spot him. He was following them about 30 feet back, when suddenly he dropped down on all fours in a sprint. They can see there's blood, not just on his face, but all over him. A short, vicious battle with the knife-wielding assailant nearly drops one of the party members. But they defeat him and continue on through the woods. They see light and follow it to a cottage. But the cottage has a number of hunting traps scattered about it. One of the party stumbles into one. They peek into the cottage and see someone sitting in a chair, back to the door, sharpening an axe. They enter. They fight, and the paladin smites the bastard. They look around, find some half-eaten bodies and some treasure, then go to leave. Suddenly, the enemy is back up. With a gun, the ranger set the precedent for having guns in the world to the paladin's head. One more round of desperate combat leaves the party in a rough state, but a lucky crit beheads the foe. It wasn't until I read the final lines of the song that they caught on, and the ensuing angry clamor is one of my favorite memories of that campaign. His head topples to the floor, expressionless. You fall to your knees and catch your breath. You're finally safe from Shia LaBeouf. God. I had to choke back so much laughter from all that, you have no idea. I was at a table for around a year with a short-statured tabaxi swashbuckler. The joke was that he was named Banderia, but otherwise he was just a standard bog swashbuckler. He didn't have a large hat, but nobody really said anything, so I just felt the gag fell flat, and nobody wanted to say anything about the bad joke. And so we went on playing and having adventures. Finally, after nearly a year into the game, one of the other players suddenly had this look of recognition wash over them, and just looked at me and went, "Did you make Puss in Boots from Shrek as your character?" "Yeah." "Oh my God." And then they lost it. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know what kind of joke you put in your character in a game that took forever for the players to catch on to. We love you all. Please be safe, be happy, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.